Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Talk Podcast. Now, we all know this face. This is Candace Owens. I did not see this coming. I did not see myself reacting to this, but it's somehow very interesting. The gossip is mind blowing. I've been avoiding it. I've been trying not to, like, what am I going to think about this? Do I really care? I'm not sure, but it is quite interesting. So, the gossip is obviously about Brigitte Macron, the wife of the president in France. And, for some time now, some months, some weeks, I guess some months now, obviously this year, Candace has been digging, she's been investigating. I do not really remember how this, came up to her or why she started digging. But maybe not only her, but other people have been kind of suspicious, very interested in the relationship of the president couple in France. And, you know, there's this there's this weird allegation that, you know, Brigitte is not a woman. Yeah, that's so it's so weird, it's so shocking. But at the same time, if you look and think about all the things that has been happened in history, happened just a few months back, happening nowadays. Things are changing. People are changing. I mean, look, one of the Kendall Jenners, how do you even say it? Their dad is now a woman. Things can happen, right? And I wasn't too interested in it, but now there's another headline. And obviously, don't forget, I'm always saying obviously, it's not that obvious. Man, I don't know how many people know about this, but they're trying to create this lawsuit against Candace. They're literally trying to shut her down from digging and, investigating. Now, keep this in mind. This is most likely not the first presidential couple who's been in some kind of gossip in the news, on the media, whatever. But it's very interesting for you to see a president wife or president couple reacting to, I'm not trying to downplay it, but in this case, a YouTuber or a news reporter, even if there were, like, does that make sense? So I'm not really feeling the right words right now, but now I'm getting even more interested because it says, you know, the lawyer, Brigitte's lawyer, has a dark past. Now that makes the whole thing even more spicy. What are all these people hiding and what is actually going on? As I said, I did not see this coming, so join me while we listen in to Candace Owens.
Happy Monday, and let me just going on in France. Brigitte Macron, Emmanuel suing Candace Owens because she's getting close to finding out what exactly. Perhaps that all of it's really connected. Epstein, Brigitte, Ghislaine. Suddenly the world seems to be dying.
Candace is like, at this point, everything could be, okay? At this point, maybe they're all mixed up and
dialed into that fact. And things are reaching a bit of a fever pitch, which brings me to a really crazy story, you guys. Obviously, we are globally viral. Everyone is watching the Becoming Brigitte series from here to Tokyo and everywhere in between, trying to figure out what on earth has happened. What on earth has that woman said in Tennessee that has caused the sitting president of France to sue her all the way in the United States? What's going on here?
And for what I remember, the way of the lawsuit or how how it all started was not in the right way. Like, it was completely weird setting, media involved.
Well, in France, obviously, Brigitte is hitting the ground hard, or sending people out rather to hit the ground hard and basically try to spin why it is that they're doing this, right? The French press is obviously terrified to speak about this issue in any way other than signaling that it's a conspiracy. And Brigitte,
I'm sorry, guys, but just think about it, okay? Imagine someone comes up with such a weird allegation, right? So far, it's an allegation. It's a stupid claim. It's like, it's almost childish, right? Imagine someone is calling someone, you're a man, you're a guy, whatever. And if that's not the case, they would just be like, I don't care. Or they would just say, no, I'm not, and move on, right?
had someone close to her, close to the office, a man named Eric Dupond Moretti, speak on her behalf about this case. He has declared this to be a state issue, right? This could potentially bring the French Republic to its knees, and that is what he is communicating in this interview.
Look at the wording. We're talking about, like, I don't know how deep this goes, but for what I know, we're talking about someone trying to find out, is this person who she portrays herself to be? Which is really not that crazy of a deal nowadays, if you get what I'm saying. And you would think to yourself, either it just gets ignored, it's not gonna last forever in the media, people are gonna stop talking about it. But for it to go so far to a lawsuit, crossing waters, and then this wording, you start asking yourself, what is going on?
Interview, he's sitting down with the journalist, and it's like, why would you sue this podcast in the United States? Well, just so you know, he's about to clarify, this is a state issue. And he comes up with this utterly demented logic as to why it's a state issue. I'm not going to read his entire back and forth. You can find it on Xavier Poussard's X, but I'll read you a portion of it because it's quite funny, actually. This is his theory. He's sitting down with Sophie Nomayer, and she says to him, you make the connection with Candace Owens, who herself is known for being a far-right blogger. Eric responds, the reality is that the man named Poussard will export his rumors across the Atlantic, and it's Candace Owens who will gather them. And not only will she gather them, but with unimaginable firepower, she will spread them. Sophie asks, 7 million subscribers. Eric says, 7 million subscribers. And what we see, and it's probably a coincidence, is that first of all, she supports Marine Le Pen against the president of the Republic. She said, I don't understand why the French didn't elect Marine Le Pen. Whatever, but above all else, she is close to Marion Maréchal. Now, for those of you guys who don't know who Marion Maréchal is Marine Le Pen. That's her niece. So Marine Le Pen is the person that Emmanuel Macron ran against for president. And he is correct. I think way back when it went down, when he was running, I did say that French should elect the conservative, because I'm a conservative. Anyways, he's now going, her niece, Marion Maréchal, Candace knows her. And so Sophie asks him, how do we know? And Eric replies, because Marion Maréchal, in reality, is going to have Candace speak at a right-wing convention that she organized in September of 2019. Marion Maréchal, her account, forgive me, is one of 98 accounts that is followed by Owens. Maréchal invited her followers to follow Owens, and then they make the Charter pilgrimage together after Owens converted to Catholicism. Sophie's not following him. He's like, okay, I don't understand. You're saying that Candace spoke at a
I also don't understand. Like, what has this to do with anything at this point?
random convention in Paris. Marion Maréchal was there. They follow each other on social media. And Candace converted to Catholicism. What does that have to do with anything? And now he's mentioning the Charter pilgrimage, which is, I did that Catholic pilgrimage. This is true in France. This is when he explains. She says, what do you mean, Eric? Eric responds, I mean that they know each other very well. I mean that they see each other, that they are close to each other. And I believe you see, madame, that there is no such thing as chance in life. As Paul Eluard said, there are only encounters.
I can see this man really speaking in French, very poetic, very mystical, trying to confuse everyone, basically trying to draw the attention somewhere else because it doesn't make sense.
Okay, so he goes on to explain how through the Charter pilgrimage, somehow, because Marion Maréchal was apparently also on this pilgrimage. Now, I did not talk to her. I did not speak to her. It's like 26,000 people marching. And apparently she does it every year. I did it once after I converted to Catholicism, and I hadn't seen her or spoken to her or heard of her since 2019 when I met her at that event. But he's connecting the dots that Russia is somehow involved in funding the end of the French Republic through the Catholic Charter pilgrimage because they want to collapse Emmanuel Macron and install Marine Le Pen, and they want to end the Republic. Yeah, it's totally demented, okay? But more demented is who this person is himself, okay? Who Eric...
That's where I want to get to, who this person actually is.
Dumond Moretti is himself. Because you need to understand, this is not
who is Monsieur Dumond?
Casual, okay? He is publicly representing that he's working with the U.S. attorneys that are suing me to help this investigation, and he is not an average lawyer, okay? Eric Dumond Moretti, this signals that Brigitte is bringing in the big guns He is the former Justice Minister of France. Okay, so think of that as like the Attorney General of France, handpicked by Brigitte herself. And when she handpicked him, it caused outrage all throughout France. And if you want to know why, it's because, like I said at the top of the show, Eric has a unique.
Imagine, I need to just let this sink in for a moment, okay? Now, however, how much you want to, you know, however, how much deep you're involved in politics, you support this, you don't support that, whatever. The rules and the games are set the way they are. But now imagine what could you have said or done that a whole president wife in this case, slash, we don't know, is coming for you in a lawsuit. Isn't that crazy? I mean, these are situations you hear like a neighbor have another, like they're two neighbors, they're having this verbal up and down, calling each other names, call the police. One is trying to sue one for, a few offensive, abusive language, stuff like that.
His skill set. In other words, the cases that Eric takes on as an attorney, the cases that he tends to intervene in, have a common theme. I'm going to briefly tell you about just a couple of these cases. You can look him up independently. I'm not painting a picture here. This is crazy. The first one is known as the Manachet affair. Okay, the Manachet affair refers to a man. His name was Dennis Manachet. He meets a young woman when he's young as well, a teenager. Her name is Lawrence.
If this is the teenage picture, then we have an issue.
Decide they're going to get married and begin a life together. They immediately start having some children. Okay. Now, Dennis Manachet is a very skilled engineer. He climbs the ladder at an automobile company and he becomes a senior executive. Him and Lawrence have 5 children. And I'm going to make it very easy for you because I'm going to put together a chart so that you can follow the story. They have 3 girls. Virginie, she's the eldest. She's born in 1981. And then they have Betty and they have a daughter named Samantha. They also have 2 boys. Their names are Tony and Dimitri. You can keep this up, Skylar, as I keep talking, just so they can follow this. Okay, so Lawrence, his wife, apparently, she just loves to spend money, okay? And Dennis is happy to allow her to spend money so long as they come to an understanding together. And that understanding is she can spend, he won't ask questions, so long as she looks the other way while he rapes their daughters.
Wow. Oh my God, wow. Look, I'm actually watching this. I'm eating on the side. I hope you guys didn't hear too much of my chewing and whatnot. And I'm still, very much shocked about the whole Brigitte versus Candace situation, but I did not see this coming. This is horrific, horrifying, disgusting. This is what kind of a mom, who does that? Who allows that? Everyone likes to spend money, but not to that cost. Like, who allows that? I feel like throwing up right now.
I'm not kidding. Okay. Viewer discretion advised. Okay. Listener discretion advised. This is the agreement that they come to.
You should have said that before, Candace. No one saw this coming.
And so he begins to do this in earnest to Betty when she's just 8 years old. Virginie witnesses it. They both go to their mother and their mom just ignores it because this is the agreement. Betty, okay, that is the younger sister, becomes pregnant from her father 3 times between the ages of 13 and 18 years old. And each time they take her to a different hospital because, she's got to get an abortion, but they also want to avoid any suspicion. They want the hospital to think that she's just like, a girl that sleeps around a lot, a teenager that sleeps around. So they go to 3 different hospitals.
Your own daughters. Oh my gosh, this is so bad and it's so painful and so difficult to comprehend because you're like, it's not just one adult who's supposed to be the protection and guide them. No, it's both. It's mom and dad doing this. This is crazy.
Needless to say, it's not just physical abuse. The father is also psychologically abusive. he decides to treat Betty, the one who's been pregnant 3 times, as like the hoe of the family. He has a favorite. Virginie is his favorite. He refers to her as the Duchess. But Betty, he can't stand her. He calls her fat. He calls her ugly. He threatens her and also her mother repeatedly. Like there was this incident where he found a cigarette butt, just to give you an idea of like who he is. He finds a cigarette butt on the ground where they live, and he's like, which one of you is smoking? So he like takes them to the woods and just holds like a rifle to their faces.
Jesus.
Betty and the mother, that is, not the Duchess, Virginie. Also, if you're wondering like where are the sons in this story, he actually makes them live in a shed on the property, totally separate. They're not allowed to be in the main house, and he does
I find it like how this is stories like this really blow my mind because they're gonna portray themselves like the normal family. I'm sure they have friends and whatnot. Like, don't you guys have neighbors? Is no one around you? No one. How does this happen? Oh, it's
that for 2 reasons. One is because he wants to keep the sons in the dark regarding the repeated rapes of the daughters, but also because he's very jealous and he doesn't want any male competition in the house where he's living with his wife and his daughters. So he just keeps the sons away.
Yeah, and perhaps he doesn't want the sons to, they understand what's happening. They grow strong. They retaliate if they're not even around and they don't even know what's happening. They're not a threat to potentially stop him or expose him, right?
Next, down at the shed. Anyways, fast forward to the year 2000. Betty, the younger sister, is 16. Virginie is now 21. And Dennis decides to make Virginie, his daughter, the main woman of the household. So his wife, Lawrence, let's get that chart up again. His wife, Lawrence, is now relegated, kind of. He's like kind of treating her like she's maybe a daughter with Samantha. But Virginie, he takes her with him everywhere. Of course, they're not officially married on paper, but she's the woman of the household. He takes her to work every day at the automobile garage. She's also especially gifted when it comes to mechanics and engineering. And about a year later, Virginie, his daughter, falls pregnant with his child. And since she's the favorite, he lets her keep the child. So if you're following now, Virginie, his daughter, is about to give birth to his son. So he's the grandfather and the father of Nicholas, who you're seeing at the bottom here on this chart. She gives birth to a boy named Nicholas in 2002. It's going to get crazier. Betty, the younger sister, then turns 18, and she had tried to run away a few times when she was younger. You know, this is the sister.
Oh my God, this is too much. I already see where this is going. So most likely this lawyer who's now supporting the case against Candace Owens, he's going to be the one who fought for this man. I'm sure that's how the story is going to go. And now I understand what she meant with, if you guys know who this is, if you find out, if you understand and learn who this person is, it's going to make it just makes the whole story is just disgusting, horrifying. But now, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, you would think to yourself, from all the people, the connections, the backstories, there could be so much more to this.
That he shames. But by 18, she is able to escape and she rings the alarm publicly. She files a complaint with the police. She says, me and my sister have been repeatedly raped by my father from the time that I was 8 years old. We have been suffering at his hands. And the driving factor for what drives her into the police's arms is that she was fearful that her sister, the youngest one, Samantha, who at that time is just 4 years old, is going to suffer the same fate. So she finds the courage to report this. She tells the police that her mother, by the way, Lawrence, is complicit, and that's
Oh, thank God she found, like, she had the courage, the power. She took that into her own hands. She couldn't stand it anymore. She actually protected the younger ones and her child. Unfortunately, having that child in such a situation with your dad, disgusting. But I'm so glad she actually did go to the police, because in my mind it's been ringing all this time. I mean, I've never been in this kind of situation. I don't want to find, like, who wants to be in that kind of situation? You don't even wish this on your enemies, right? But you as an outsider, you ask yourself, oh my God, how is it that you don't speak with someone? Of course, they're terrified, they're scared, they've been manipulated, they've been, probably held away from other people, thinking this is how life goes. I don't know. This is so crazy.
Sometimes your mother would plan these things and partake in them. I mean, it's really
Disgusting.
terrible, disgusting stuff. Okay. Suffice it to say that Dennis and Lawrence are of course arrested, the mother and the father, and they are imprisoned until 2004, when their lawyers are able to secure their release until after the trial and the sentencing. And guess who gets brought into his legal team? Okay. Eric Dupont Moretti. Guy who thinks
Wow.
I'm like colluding with Russia and taking instructions while I'm on a pilgrimage. Now, Dennis is his client. The father is his client. Dennis is a bit of a psycho, you might imagine. Despite being released and given instructions that he has to stay away from his daughter, he violates that because he just wants to be around Virginia. He's a little obsessed with Virginia, and he immediately begins asserting control over the family again. Now, if you're Eric, this isn't good for the lawyers unless you come up with something, a way to refashion what is happening in this family, right? And Eric Dupont Moretti is up for the task. Him and another lawyer that he's working with, Hubert Delarue, begin to spin everything that's happening as a tale of, wait for it, happy incest.
Oh my Lord. Mm, I can't. I really do. I don't know what to say. This episode, I'm so sorry. We're literally just letting it run. I don't know what to say. Happy incest. And I'm sure if we keep this word in mind, right, and we just go back in time, we start digging, we compare to now, I'm sure somehow today they're trying, or someone is trying to use this nonsense and try to make it the norm. How crazy is this?
Yeah, he is known, by the way, this guy Eric, as an ogre in France, the ogre of France. Because of this, he spins it as happy incest. He explains to the daughter that they need to get behind this idea, right? We're going to sell to the courts that you guys are a happily incestuous family. This is all consensual. So eventually, the parents are sentenced to 8 years in prison for their crimes, but Eric Dupont fights for their sentences to be reduced in the appellate courts. He does this by getting Betty, the sister, to backtrack on her allegations. She suddenly is telling the appellate court that she was simply jealous of her sister, Virginie.
Wow, what have they done to her? How much fear did they install in this woman, in this young woman? What did they tell her? How much of lies and constant manipulation and threatening have been going on for her to follow along and say, yes, I'm going to just pretend and say, of course, what else? Happy incest, that's what we're up to, that's what I wanted. How can they even come up with consent, knowing very well this happened during, as a child? How is this possible? This is so crazy. And my mind is just going. Now we all understand that lawyers are seen as this, they don't put themselves in it. They try to remove their morals. It's like they're just neutral and they take the cases and they're trying to support this person within the law, not putting their judgment in. But sometimes, and I'm sure there are other people who think like this, don't you guys ask yourself sometimes, within certain cases and certain things that have happened and certain people who really choose to take those cases, isn't there something weird about you? I don't know why I'm thinking this, but if you are willing, not only that you're defending this person or trying to fight for that person, but you literally took the story and twisted it. You made it something that it was not. You took this disgusting act and lied about it and made it, you just destroyed this woman continuously. Like, she's already been broken. So where I'm going with this is, I'm sure if someone would start digging about what this person is interested in, what they follow, what they believe in, and what circles they roll in, I could see it happening that you might find some dark energy, demonic spirit, some weird cult, some, I don't know why I'm thinking that, but it must be something stupidly weird about you for you to do this, no?
She retracts her earlier claim of the father having raped her and instead says that her father and her sister, Virginie, were incestuous consensually. Now, I should also mention that this is all taking place in Amiens. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Amiens. Yeah, where Macron was born and raised, and where
I'm sorry, guys. We are invested, okay? I did not see this coming, but we are invested. And it is one thing that I will give to Candace for sure. If she takes on a story situation, as I said, I do not remember how this actually fell on her lap and why she started digging. But if she starts digging, she's going to find out everything, the names, the times, the places, who was involved, who was around, who knew something, who wrote down something, pictures. She's going to give you a whole timeline and it's going to make sense.
Brigitte Macron was born and raised. They are the appellate court that is holding this trial that Eric Dumond is trying to convince about happy incest, anyways. And
Wait.
was born and raised, and where Brigitte Macron was born and raised. They are the appellate court that is holding this trial that Eric Dumond is trying to convince about happy incest, anyways. And he's looking at this court and he explains to the court that this is actually a case of extraordinary love. Extraordinary love. I'm wondering if this is going to be part of the tactics that are used when Brigitte and Emmanuel come here for their case. Extraordinary love. That's what they told. We did learn, actually.
The reason why she's saying that is because Candace and other people, for what I understand, are trying to find out not only is Brigitte perhaps a man, but also there is some weird timeline in when they met. Like they met. I'm sorry. There's a weird timeline in how they met, and she supposedly was his teacher, and but by that time she must have been like early to mid 40s or something, or perhaps older. And he was 14 or 15. So there were questions around that situation. And apparently it's been known in France, and there was some kind of story how the media and them trying to portray it as he just loved his teacher. He's always been attracted to her. She's this stunning looking, attractive woman that how couldn't it be, so hard for a young man not to fall for his very attractive looking teacher. But then if you really take a look, there are questions. Really, there are questions. I'm sure it can happen that young boys kind of have a crush on their teacher, especially if they should be portrayed as very attractive. But it's not my opinion to judge someone's attractiveness in terms of what they like or don't like. But at the same time, there's still going to be that question around it in terms of the older person, the adult, the guardian in that situation actually entertaining that relationship. I don't know.
They were an extraordinary case. It was a teacher and the student, and this was so compelling and extraordinary. Anyways, let me not get lost here. It works. The sentence is then reduced consequentially during the appeal.
Not only did they lie and twisted the whole story, not only 8 years itself is just a joke of a sentence, and then on top of that, they managed to even reduce that.
Appeal trial in Amiens to just 5 years in prison, 3 of which he had already, which were suspended. Pardon me, Dennis Menachet had this suspended. His wife gets 1 more year than he does, which is kind of crazy, but that's because Eric Dupond-Moretti also worked on this idea that really the wife is the one we should really be mad at because she wanted this relationship to take place. Now, if you're wondering why it is that Betty changed her story, It's because Virginie, her sister, begged her to, and her sister begged her to because it was the only way that she was going to get custody of her son back. Yeah, throughout all of this, they took Nicholas, the son.
My God, what a disgusting, devastating situation. So you're already so, I don't have words for this, it's already so bad, and then you still find yourself compromising because in this whole discuss, there's still someone to be protected. Because otherwise, that young son is going to go into the hands of this evil, disgusting, trifling, dangerous man who's supposed to be your guy's father. Is like, come on now.
And Eric and the lawyers are saying, well, I want to see your son again. Virginie is going to Betty, and Betty is like, please. I mean, and she's like, please, Betty, just change your testimony. I just want my son. I love my son. And so Betty agrees to do it. She acquiesces. This is going to be according to her own testimony later. Years later, Betty writes a book called It Wasn't Love, where she recounts specifically how Eric Dupont was a special kind of demon. I'm paraphrasing here, but like, yeah, he's the one that helped to craft this narrative of consensual incest. It was him. And she is outraged by the fact that he is now going to become the Justice Minister of France. Now, if you're wondering about what happens thereafter to Virginie, it turns out that Eric maybe had it wrong. The incest was actually not that happy. The story ends quite tragically. After being allowed to return to Virginie, thanks to the Amiens appellate court, Dennis is being judicially monitored, and Virginie reports that she is fearful and terrified of her father, fearful that he has it within him to kill her. Fast forward to September of 2014,
Oh
and
no.
Virginie works up the courage to leave her father with her son Nicholas. She
Okay,
escapes,
okay.
and Nicholas is her motivation. He's older now. She does this through a private organization that helps people that are impoverished plan their escapes. Thereafter, her employer, somebody that she works at the garage with, decides to help out. His name is Frederick Piard, and he houses her and her son.
Wait a minute. After all of this, she was still in captive, still in this, still controlled by him. Oh my God.
Dennis, throughout this, is hunting Virginie, right? Because he loves her. He loves his daughter. If that's what we're calling, works up the courage to leave her father with her son Nicholas. She escapes, and Nicholas is her motivation. He's older now. She does this through a private organization that helps people that are impoverished plan their escapes. Thereafter, her employer, somebody that she works at the garage with, decides to help out. His name is Frederick Piard, and he houses her and her son. Dennis, throughout this, is hunting Virginie, right? Because he loves her. He loves his daughter. If that's what we're calling love. And on October 7th, 2014, after following her to Frederick's garage, he first shoots Frederick dead. Then he shoots his daughter, Virginie, dead. And then he turns the gun on himself. Frederick Piard obviously dies. Dennis Monochet miraculously survives. It's a botched suicide attempt, but then he is disabled.
That's how we actually got to the name Monochet, the Monochet situation. But it all of this in between was tough to swallow. Really, this man is the most disgusting person ever. Such a coward, and then kills himself. Like, you mistreated, you broke your daughter, you took everything away, and then you kill this innocent man who has nothing to do with it, who's trying to help her, trying to keep them safe. You take her life, you destroy the life of your son slash grandson. It's so bad. It's
Years later, he appears at the new trial, now this time for a double murder. He's in a wheelchair. He's speaking through a type pad. I mean, how's that for happy incest? But you do have to imagine Betty's surprise when she learns years later that that lawyer, who she felt had really masterminded this whole happy incest thing in Amiens, was selected by a couple from Amiens, no less, to become the Minister of Justice for the entire country of France. And not only that, but while he's the Minister of Justice of France, similarly, Emmanuel Macron, remember when Emmanuel Macron gave that Legion of Honor award to Patrick Buey, the person who worked on Brigitte's face? Well, he also gives a Legion of Honor award to, and we have a picture here, Hubert Delarue. There's the Minister of France buckling it onto him, putting it onto him, the lawyer who worked alongside Moretti to come up with the happy incest. He gets one too. Everybody gets a Legion of Honor. Everybody that gets a Legion of Honor that's doing good stuff for, I guess, the aims of the Macrons. Now, again, like if you are
I'm lost. I am so lost. The fact that um, this person's name is connected to justice is just mind blowing. Really, I did not see the story going this way. I feel like I need to take a break and then come back for more. But this is